my sister and I, she lives up with my parents in like this big house, kind of, in this big 2 acre kind of lots. There's lots of wildlife. And her and I were outside like at night one time. It was a hot summer night, and we were kind of like talking or something, and we started to hear this like shh noise,
Oh, that's no
and
good.
I was like, "That's weird." And she's like, "No, it's just the sprinklers coming on." And then I was like, "I don't think it is." And then we looked down, and there was literally a rattlesnake right there.
Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watcher Pass. Today I'm talking to Sierra McCormick, who plays Melissa in We Need to Do Something, which came out on Blu-ray and DVD on June 16, 2022. We're going to talk to her right now. And while you're watching, if you can like, subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. It also meant a lot. Thank you.
David, how are you?
Hi, Sierra. Pleasure. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you. I'm great. Happy to be here.
I love the look. I wasn't sure how you were gonna look, right? This film came out a while ago. I wasn't sure if you would go all in, but I love that you went for it. That's perfect. I tried to look for my, neon looking wig, but I didn't find it. So much stuff
Well,
is.
then we would have been, kind of wearing the same thing, and that's kind of embarrassing. So,
Yeah, one of us would have had to change, and I'm the host, so I wouldn't
yeah.
want to pull rank.
Yeah, no, I would have to change. And unfortunately, this hair's on my head. So I don't really know what I would have done. But luckily,
Just
yeah, I always go big. So go
yeah.
big or go home.
That is awesome. So thanks so much for joining me. This is Sierra McCormick, who
Yeah.
plays Melissa in We Need to Do Something, which is coming to Blu-ray and DVD on June 16, 2022. It is a cabin fever type horror movie that has a lot of crazy stuff happening, and a lot of that is driven by your character's choices. So thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you. It sure is. Yeah. A lot of crazy stuff, a lot of crazy choices.
Exactly. And so I guess the first question is, how did you get involved in this film? It feels like a small, fun but stressful project. Like, how did you kind of get involved with this cast and this production?
Um, well, the script came to me right in the middle of 2020, so kind of in the middle of the initial pandemic. And because of the pandemic, I hadn't worked for quite a bit, so I was itching to do something performance wise. And then just the nature of the script and the character and the circumstances were very attractive to me. And I could reading it, I could see that this essentially functioned like a play, and so it'd be an opportunity to really work closely with some very experienced, amazing other actors and get to really share some meaty sort of scenes with them. And so that was very appealing because Pat and Vinessa, as you've seen the movie, they're incredible and their performances are amazing. Vinessa is so like restrained to the point of where she's, having to put up with so much. And then Pat is just at an 11, like just going absolutely full head first into his performance. So kind of seeing that opportunity was very attractive to me. And then also the aspect of the queer relationship that's kind of functioning in the heart of the movie as well, and kind of is the catalyst for some of the events that take place. Horror doesn't have the best track record history with queer relationships, and I think the way that this one was handled within the movie was very refreshing and sweet, but also kind of toxic and teenagery. And so I think it spoke to some of the truth of what those first kind of relationships can be like. And so all of those factors kind of contributed to me being excited. And then I signed on as quickly as I could. And before I knew it, I was out in Michigan at a soundstage, doing this with some incredible other performers. So
that sounds fantastic. And I love that you brought up the queer relationship, because you're right. Like horror, I don't feel like horror is like not welcoming, because I feel like the horror community is a very kind of welcoming, accepting community. Like
yeah.
as long as you like horror, it doesn't matter. But it does feel like, recently I feel like I've seen more and more horror movies that have queer relationships as part of the plot, or just kind of as normal characters there. And it's really kind of nice to see that evolution take place. And I'm glad that appealed to you and that you kind of helped move that along.
Yeah, because, I think that because it was so bad for a while, that it's kind of come around to almost the opposite end of the spectrum, where there's like an abundance, I think, starting now and a little bit more recently, of sort of queer-based horror films or horror films that include queer relationships, but they aren't like this evil or this, you know, bad, horrible thing that must be punished or whatever. It's like this, or this exploitative kind of gross thing. It's like this very authentic thing. And I think we're kind of starting to move towards that now, where horror is this, you know, very queer space almost at this point, which is wonderful. And I've been really happy to kind of see that change happen in the last couple of years. And I'm really excited to see kind of where it goes from here, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, I love that horror has such a wide kind of variety in it. So it's really nice that you can get all sorts of different stories, and some of them can be more extreme. Some of them can be, you know, this one had extreme moments, but at least the relationship did, like you said, did feel very sweet until it wasn't. But you know, such is horror, right? And such as
such as horror and such,
I
was about to say, such as relationships, you know, when you're that age too, everything feels like the end of the world, kind of, you know, and I think that's illustrated in the film in kind of an interesting way. And then, you know, just the levels of sweetness, but then also toxicity that you don't realize is there, that, you know, is true to, you know, most relationships when you're that age. But I was very sort of happy that the relationship was handled in such a way in the script.
And good choice of words. Everything does feel like it's the end of the world. That's a very, very prescient statement.
Yeah, only in this movie it actually is.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that you said that this felt like a play, because it did really feel like a play with just kind of this small confined space, you know, small set of actors, and just a lot of dramatic swings in that time period. So, you know, I guess this wasn't based on a play. It was based on a short novel that was then turned into a film. But it's interesting that it could also have been a play. It also is kind of perfect for an indie pandemic project. It's almost like the kind of like script for an indie pandemic project. So
yeah, it was a perfect COVID movie to be making, especially when we were making it, because we shot this, like I said, in the middle end kind of 2020. So this is pre-vaccine, pre-election. Like, you know, it was very different working then than even it is now on sets, you know, 2 years later. But yeah, it's a very unique, I think, point in time to be making a movie at that time. Yeah.
It's almost kind of tough to remember. Like it feels like it's so long ago, just how uncertain that was, right? Like we didn't know anything really, and there was, you know, no vector for, you know, how to fight it off. So it is kind of crazy to think.
And this nihilistic ass movie, I think, was the perfect thing for me at the time, because it illustrated kind of how I felt too. It was reflective of how, you know, at that time I just felt like there was no hope in sight, you know. And I think this movie kind of reflects what that feels like when there's very bleak circumstances around you and it feels like there's no hope in sight.
And luckily that has all changed, and everything is peachy now. Everything is roses. The world is wonderful, right?
Everything's perfect. People are wonderful. The world is great, and everyone's great.
Exactly. And so I mentioned your look when we first started. I loved your look in this film. It was just such like a bright, rebellious contrast to like everything else in this film. Did you have any input on that? Was that in the script? I mean, it felt very much you, but I wasn't sure if that was just how the character was written, or if you were just like, you know, if I'm going all in, I'm going all in.
Well, Sean, director, was very collaborative. So I got to give props to him, because he kind of expressed that he wanted Melissa to kind of have like an alt girl sort of look and something very visually striking and kind of big on camera. But I was a redhead at the time, and so I don't think he thought that I'd want to, you know, go crazy on a hair color. But that's like, I feel like as an actor, I don't get to do those kinds of big self-expressions sometimes, because it's very specific. And so the nature of being an actor, you want to look like you could do a bunch of different things, and having, you know, neon pink hair kind of limits you to one thing. But personally, I love, like, clearly, you know, going big with color and, you know, going for a big look. And so I told him, I was like, I want to dye my hair something crazy, because I feel like it's believable that Melissa would have a cool color for her hair. And so he was like, you know what, like, they were building the sound stage and the sets and stuff like that. So he was like, I think if you went like pink, it would, you know, show up in a very interesting way, and almost kind of blend into the bathroom, because the bathroom has this sort of maroon and pink tile kind of thing happening all around it. But also show up in a very big sort of bright way. And I think it contrasts with Amy as well, the my girlfriend in the film. because she's so all black, she's so dark, and then I'm kind of this bright pink sort of contrast. So I think we looked really cool on camera together. And then when it came time for the makeup and kind of the overall look, like I said, he was very collaborative. So I kind of was like, I think, you know, Melissa's someone that, you know, makeup would be important to her and self-expression would be important to her. And, you know, going for something really big and colorful and cool, I think was something that I really felt compelled to advocate for. And everyone was very receptive to that sort of idea. And kind of like doing this style of makeup that, to me, the way I was thinking about it is that, like, you know, Melissa, the way I was playing her kind of like in the closet, you know, she's, you know, her family isn't kind of aware of her sexuality and stuff like that. And so when I was thinking of these makeup things, this like big pink eye and the little like star stamp kind of on the face, I was like, what's something that would like make Melissa happy and like maybe like delight Amy, but it's like not, it's not for like the male gaze, you know, it's not to make her look more older necessarily, or more chiseled or more, you know, conventionally attractive. It's like this expression. It's this like, I want to put this pigment on my face because it makes me feel like who I am, you know. And so I kind of wanted to play with those aspects, I guess, when kind of thinking about her look. And luckily everyone was very receptive to collaboration. So it was kind of a an effort from a couple of different people, you know, hair, makeup, Sean, me, etc.
And for sure, and I loved that it also felt, you know, very kind of exploratory with her. Like she was rebellious, but also it showed that she was like trying to fit, you know, find her lane. Essentially, she was like looking for how she could fit in while also not fitting in, which, you know, is what you said you were going for.
You know, that's what that whole time period in your life is kind of about, is trying things out and, you know, exploring, you know, how, you know, internally who you are and how you want to present yourself, and then also externally, like who you are and how you want the world to see you. And I thought that was, you know, and I love that the makeup in the movie doesn't look, you know, because there are teenagers now that can do incredible, crazy like makeup looks. And so I think sometimes when, you know, film portrays teenagers, they'll do all of this very like insane technical like makeup. But like I wanted Melissa's to feel very youthful and very much like that time in your life where you don't know how to put on makeup super well necessarily. You're just kind of experimenting with like, oh, I love this color, I'm just going to put it everywhere, you know. And in this sort of like, I think it's like a youthful sort of uninhibitedness about makeup application that is very specific to kind of only like a certain age, you know. And I really wanted to honor that and not give her this like, you know, Instagram model kind of makeup look. I wanted her to have this very like punky, but also, like I said, this very youthful kind of inexperience at it, if that makes sense, you know.
And I just love that you called that youthful, because I don't know how to put on makeup, so I guess that makes me youthful as well. I guess I'm still in that exploratory stage.
Hey, I mean, makeup is different for everybody, you know. Like there's a lot of teenagers that, you know, don't ever want to, or, you know, don't really experiment with makeup and stuff, and that's cool too. But I felt like Melissa definitely is someone that would be experimenting with how she wants the world to perceive her, but she's not quite an expert at it yet because she's, you know, 16. So
yeah, for sure. And this film at some point had a, you know, a dog potentially. I was curious, was there actually a dog on set, or was that all movie magic? Because in my mind it was a cute little dog on the other side, but I don't know.
Oh no, that was definitely movie magic. There was no dog. It was just that giant fucking fake synthetic tongue just, you know, on the other side of me, and I was essentially just waiting for the moment when I'm supposed to like grab it. So all the dog noises and stuff are all from the magic of post production. At the time I was just, you know, imagining there was a dog there.
Just imagining was like for like a beautiful animal contact in this horrible situation.
Yeah, and you know, the potential for it to be my childhood dog that has died and now it's come back, and that's a happy moment until it's very much not a happy moment.
Yeah, I think that's how that would go. That's exactly how that situation would go. Like, oh, he's back. Like, oh, actually, why is he back?
Like, did I want him to be back though? Like, maybe I actually don't want him to be back.
And speaking of the animals that we did see, so, you know, there was a snake there. Some amount of it must have been was it real and some of it was movie magic, or was it all kind of just props that were puppeted around?
No, that is the movie magic of our insanely talented, amazing like visual effects person. He made some amazing, and he like puppeted all of them too. So he like made these incredible snakes. There was never a real snake anywhere. Which I was actually surprised for some reason, you know, when I signed on to this, I was like, oh, they'll probably have a real snake, you know, it's a snake wrangler or whatever the fuck, you know, there's movie snakes.
Yeah.
But no, it was all a practical effect, and it was puppeted by the men that made them. And he's incredible. And yeah, no, it was all a practical effect snake.
In some level, it might have been nice to have something on set that you were more afraid of than COVID, right? Like it would have been nice to be like, oh, like this is the biggest thing we have to worry about is this live rattlesnake. But
Yeah, I mean, I'm not afraid of snakes as much. I mean, a rattlesnake, obviously, if I see one, I'm not gonna, you know, stick around. But um, a movie snake wouldn't have made me nervous. I think COVID was definitely making me more nervous at the time, anyways, because, like I said, it was pre-vaccine and everything too. So the COVID protocol that we had to follow while we were shooting this was much more strict than even, you know, stuff that I'm experiencing on sets now. You know, 2 years later, it was like very, very strict, which kind of contributed, I think, to the being able to stay in this sort of bleak mindset. Was, you know, once we were done filming in a soundstage, all this bleak, horrible family situations, we would just go back to our gray ass fucking hotel room, you know, 4 walls with a nice view of a business complex, and we'd have to stay there pretty much when we weren't at the soundstage working. So it was a very unique, I think, set of circumstances that won't be repeated before kind of or since.
yeah,
But I think that kind of contributed to us making the movie,
yeah.
because this, you know, it's obviously kind of a COVID metaphor, and we were very much knee deep in COVID at that time. So yeah, it was it was a very interesting experience. It's almost kind of a blur a little bit to me, some of it, you know, because it was just go to the soundstage, be really, you know, be in this, you know, very, very specific headspace, and then come back to your hotel room and be in this other very specific headspace.
Yeah, it sounds like the, you know, I've heard from people that, you know, during COVID when they were working, it was really fun to just be out there and doing it again. It sounds like this had that extra layer of like, your hotel room is more depressing than the end of the world, right? Like you just want to come back and like do more and be with people and have some more fun. And you're, you know, it was early in
Yeah,
COVID, so
and
you didn't want to contaminate anything. So
yeah, well, and I'm such a extroverted person that, like, you know, one of my favorite things about my job is that when I go and shoot in some random place, whether it's Seattle or it's, you know, Hillsborough, Texas, like it can be a big city or a very small kind of town, you know, part of the fun to me is like on my off time or my downtime kind of exploring and going to check
mhm.
out, you know, whatever, you know, the place that you're staying in kind of has to offer, which, you know, could be people watching, or could be attractions, or could be a cool city vibe, or, you know, an interesting small town vibe. But I couldn't really do any of that when we were shooting this. I kind of was, and, you know, obviously, like, I'm very glad because we didn't have too much of any COVID issues, but like, you pretty much had to stay stay pretty stationary when you weren't working, which I think drove me crazy a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, the sacrifices you had to make, but that definitely, it's
Yeah,
good to hear there were no COVID issues because of those sacrifices. So that
yeah.
that's at least there's a positive in that part.
No, definitely, and I'm very happy that, you know, everyone else was pretty much on board doing the same thing. So it was bleak for everybody, and so there's kind of a level of camaraderie that this, you know, this situation is all very depressing, but, you know, we have each other.
Exactly. You had your family, right? You had
Yeah,
your on-screen
yeah,
family. Um,
exactly.
and I saw in the you know the IMDb website that the dog was voiced by Ozzy Osbourne. I imagine he didn't
Yes.
actually show up. Well, maybe he did, like, or did you at least get like a phone call with him or any sort of interaction with Ozzy? Because I think that would be amazing.
No, unfortunately, no. Ozzy kind of is the omniscient presence that we got to, because we did get to hear his voice doing the crazy thing that he does in the movie. So we did get to hear that. We got a recording of it on set, but as far as any kind of interaction, there was none, unfortunately.
Well, maybe in the sequel, maybe Aussie will have a bigger role in the sequel. One can hope.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Maybe Good Boy comes back, and we get to finally see what that looks like.
I mean, that I would watch that horror movie too. Like that would be a very different film, but I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of love that. Our movie as it is now doesn't show you any of that. I kind of love that it really relies on everyone's performance and reactions to sort of sell that. But I know that some people are probably, want some the kind of satisfaction that they could get from seeing what actually is on the other side. So maybe if there's a sequel with a lot more money, they can show you what that looks like, perhaps.
Fingers crossed. I'd like to see the other side
Yeah.
of that. And you
Same.
mentioned earlier how much fun it was filming with this cast. Like when I was seeing Pat Healy in there, I like half the time I was like horrified, and half the time I was like laughing. Like, how did you stay serious when he was doing some of his antics? Like when he was.
It's so hard. Like I'm serious, because like some of the other interviewers and like the questions they've been like, like, was it very scary, or very like how was it like, dealing or with him, or were you like frightened or like tense when he was like doing his scenes? And I'm like, no, I was like pissing myself laughing. I was like trying so hard not to like fucking break on camera, because like he's at an 11. It was such like insanity to watch, like in the best way. And I think it really informed kind of how everyone else wanted to go about doing their character work and stuff too. But it's so funny. It was so funny to me, like the moment where towards the end, where his eyes are bleeding and he turns around and he like screams at us to stop acting hysterical. Like Vinessa and I, like, we're supposed to be like frightened of him in that moment, but we were like pinching each other trying to like not laugh, because it was just like, I don't know, like I think we were all, we shot in mostly chronological order also. So like at that point, kind of towards the end, we were like so like exhausted and fried, and like the circumstances were just so bizarre and crazy that like it was just so laughable. It was like hilarious, honestly. So it was wonderful. I don't know, working with Pat and Vinessa specifically was probably my favorite thing that I got to take away from working on this film. But Pat specifically, he just went for it. He just really dove in and just put his whole pussy into that alcoholic, shitty father character, and gave it some really amazing nuance, in my opinion, but also just like wasn't afraid to dial it up to fucking 12. Like,
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
It was wonderful to watch. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I didn't imagine you were worried during this filming, but there was a scene when he got very hungry and started eating something. I was just like laughing, because like a kid like trying to sneak candy and like not having anyone see. It was so
No,
funny.
literally, when he's like, I don't know, he's like eating all the fucking alcohol wipes, and it's just so, the lunacy of it all. I don't know. It's just so crazy and bizarre. It's just, I don't know. It was very funny. I still laugh sometimes thinking about it.
Well, yeah, that's the craziness that happens during cabin fever. At least you can
Yeah,
laugh about
no
it.
kidding. Yeah.
So I know we have very limited time. I'm gonna switch. I call it the lightning round. They're just very lightweight questions about the film. I
Okay.
want to see how your personal
Cool.
experiences map to things. If you can, feel free not to answer any of them. I won't be offended, but I try to keep them very answerable.
Sure.
First question is: have you ever been trapped in a building?
Yeah, I was trapped in an elevator once, actually.
Oh, that's
Um,
scary.
Yeah, I was trapped in an elevator with some friends, and they were drunk and I was not. I was going downstairs to smoke, so I was trying to get like on their level, but they were already drunk, and so they were dumb and jumped like multiple times in the elevator, all three of them, all these, big guys. And the elevator eventually stopped, and it was like hours before they had to like literally pull us out of the roof and everything. It was very interesting. So yes, I have.
Oh, that's scary, and I could see I've seen horror movies that are based on that, so that could have
Luckily it had a good ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Are you a dog or a cat or maybe a snake person? Like, what kind of a pet person are you?
Well, I grew up with dogs and cats, and so I have a lot of love for my childhood dog, and she's still alive, Annie. Love her. But as an actor and as a person, I find that it's just easier for me to have cats. Just as an actor, they can be left alone for quite a bit, and they're not quite as, needy and demanding as dogs. And I don't know, I just everything feels better when there's a cat in my life, in my presence. And then as far as snakes go, I said I wasn't afraid of snakes, but not so much so that I would have one as a pet necessarily.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
good solid line to draw, right? Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. I'm glad you recognize your limitations. And a cat is interesting. Less spell components from a cat, but probably also easier to manage. So
Yeah, just easier to, a little more independent. And I respect that, and I appreciate that.
next question is, have you ever eaten tongue?
I've eaten like tongue taco. Here in LA there's all kinds of stuff you can try. So I did have a beef tongue, I believe, in a taco one time. And it was fine while I was eating it. I was like, this is fine, it's not bad. But the thought process you can get into and how grossed out you could possibly get by eating it is not worth the taste, in my opinion. But I did try it at least, so I have.
There you go. Yeah, I had tongue in Japan one time, and it was
Ah,
good. And then I had tongue in a taco, and it was not as good as I remembered it. So yeah, maybe it's just how you prepare it. Who knows?
yeah. And I was like, this is fine. But it's, if you hadn't told me it was tongue, I'd be like, this is fine. You're like, sure. But the fact that I know that, it's like, doesn't outweigh, it doesn't taste good enough, in my opinion, to outweigh
Exactly.
the thought process.
the chewing sensation of chewing. Yeah, exactly.
That.
This I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but have you ever been bitten by a snake?
No, I haven't. But I came close one time. My sister and I, she lives up with my parents in like this big house, kind of, in this big 2-acre kind of lots. There's lots of wildlife. And her and I were outside like at night one time. It was a hot summer night, and we were kind of like talking or something, and we started to hear this like shh noise.
Oh, that's
and
no good.
I was like, that's weird. And she's like, no, it's just the sprinklers coming on. And then I was like, I don't think it is. And then we looked down, and there was literally a rattlesnake right there, like right between us. And I was just like, oh my fucking God. And so she like darted, and then I was like, I don't want to make any sudden movements. So I just slowly turned around and walked away, fully expecting, because I was wearing shorts, and I was like, it's gonna bite the back of my leg. Like I'm just anticipating it's gonna bite me. It's gonna bite me. And then it didn't. So
I'm glad that your friend also recognized that, you don't have to be the fastest person. You just have to be faster than the other person. So
yeah. Kayla, my sister, she was like, adios, bitch. Like, it's like, well, I don't want to make any sudden moves. So
it's better
close.
for the family to have one child than none, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I think she'd be the better one to keep than me. So I caused too many problems.
That's very adult of you to recognize.
Thank you. That's my cross to bear.
And the last question is, what is the strangest thing you've eaten because you were very hungry? Maybe it was those tongue tacos. I don't know. Or you could just say, what's the strangest thing you've eaten, if you want to go.
Okay, because I was gonna say, I was like, maybe not because I was hungry, but maybe because I wanted to like prove something, or I wanted to try something. I think I've had like all kinds of like cuisines that would be considered like weird, like sweetbreads. Have you ever had that? It's like, cow like pituitary gland or something. I've had kind of things like that, but I think the strangest thing I've eaten, because my sister dared me to, was dog food. I ate like dry dog food one time, or like I tried it at least, because I don't know, siblings, they know how to push your fucking buttons and make you do weird shit. I don't know. So like we were hanging out, she's like, you're a baby if you don't do it. I guess you're just too like afraid or whatever. And I was like, fuck you, no. And so I like ate the little piece of dog food. And I was just like, that was terrible. Why did I do that? I didn't need to prove anything to you, but like I still did.
But you proved it. So that's the important part.
Yeah, I proved it, and I wasn't a little baby about it. So
and now that you mentioned that, I have also eaten dog food. One time we got this like organic dog food, and I was like, these ingredients sound amazing. It was like organic wheat, organic blah blah blah. I was like, let me check. I was like, no, these aren't amazing.
No, there's a reason. Like there's a reason that it's not for people, as I found out. But I feel like that's not actually as uncommon and weird as one might think. I've encountered a lot of people that have tried dog food once on a whim, or because of a dare or something like that. So it's probably not even that weird. It's just curiosity.
And you know what? It shows that we're ready for, if the world ever does end,
yeah,
and we need to like start relying on some stranger things,
yeah,
we're ready. We're good to go.
Yeah, we got it. Yeah,
our body
we're on top of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, bags of dog food, I mean, that could last so fucking long. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Especially when you're locking their door from all the dogs outside, because they look
yeah,
very dangerous.
exactly. Yeah,
Awesome.
for
So
sure.
the film is out on June 16, 2022. Blu-ray and DVD is the release. You are out promoting it. I imagine you probably have other things in the pipeline. After they check you out in we need to do something, what else can people see you in? What is the next project that you have going on?
The next project I have going on, I have a couple things that'll be coming out probably sometime next year. I'm not the first to know those kinds of things, but I've got a really wonderful sort of coming of age drama that to counteract, the very crazy circumstances and worlds that I usually act in a lot of genre movies. The next movie, Sour Milk, is what it's called. It is very grounded and very naturalistic and very sweet and intimate, I would say. It's just kind of about that period of time in your life when you're trying to figure out who you are and where you fit into the world. And it's got a wonderful cast of people that are dear friends of mine. And then after that, I've got some more genre fun stuff. So I've got a really cool sort of atmospheric vampire movie called I Don't Want to Drink Your Blood Anymore. And it's got a phenomenal performance by its lead actress, Mickey. She is amazing as this agoraphobic vampire, essentially. Yeah, amongst some other fun things. I've got like a fun mockumentary thing coming out soon. And then obviously some more horror stuff that you can look forward to. Obviously, I tend to kind of stay in that wheelhouse a lot, so you can look forward to all kinds of fun genre things coming up.
Well, and horror is happy to have you.
Thank you.
I love the genre. It's fun to kind of see all different stories. But you did mention, like, this movie also had a little bit of a sweet coming of age story. If you kind of spliced certain scenes together, it would be a lovely coming of age movie.
Yeah, like a big chunk of the film, or a big part of it, I think, has to do with Melissa's sort of coming of age and trying to figure out who she is to the world and where she wants to fit into the world and stuff. It's just that the circumstances of this coming of age are very heightened and bleak and crazy.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
She came to that realization. Maybe it was too late. You'll have to watch the movie to find out.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
Awesome. So thanks so much for your time. This is Sierra McCormick talking about We Need to Do Something, which came to Blu-ray and DVD on June 16th, 2022. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, David. Appreciate it.
That was Sierra McCormick talking about We Need to Do Something, which came to Blu-ray and DVD on June 16, 2022. It is a tense cabin fever type film where a family gets trapped in a small room and has to deal with all the crazy things that happen in that situation. And Sierra McCormick has a very big role and a very memorable look. If you like this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.